What's up everybody, this is Andrew with Programming Liftoff, and today we are going to learn how to upload a web page to GitHub Pages. So before doing this tutorial, you should have a web page that you want to upload to GitHub. This is my web page that I'm going to upload. If you don't have a web page, you can go ahead and head on over to programmingliftoff.com and search for the blog post "Create a Basic Web Page with CSS and JavaScript," and this will walk you through creating a web page that you can use for this tutorial. So once you have your web page, go ahead and log into GitHub and click the plus button to create a new repository. And then we'll name the repository. You can name it whatever you like. I'm going to name mine GitHub Pages First Upload, but if you have a portfolio website that you're uploading or something like that, you can name it similar to what the web page is about. The description is optional, but I'm going to go ahead and say learn how to upload a web page to GitHub Pages, and then I'm going to make it a public repository because I'm not paying for private repositories, and it's a web page, so people are going to be able to see the stuff on it. You should not check this box to initialize with a readme because we want an empty repository to be created, and go ahead and click Create Repository. Alright, so once you do that, it will show you some steps to add the repository from the command line. You'll also notice up here you can click HTTPS or SSH. I recommend clicking on SSH up here. That's what we'll do in this tutorial. HTTPS requires a password to push to GitHub. SSH uses public and private keys, and it's the way that most people, I'd say most people are using SSH when they push to GitHub, just because you don't have to type in a password every time, and it's a little more secure. You're not going to forget your password. The public and private keys provide the authentication in place of the password. So it's the recommended way. I recommend using SSH to push to GitHub. So it'll give you some steps. So let's go ahead and start following these steps. So first, what you'll want to do is open up the terminal on a Mac or Linux, or open up Windows Bash or Git Bash if you're on Windows. So if you don't have Git installed yet, you'll want to do that. So on Mac and Linux, you can tell if you have Git installed by opening up the terminal and typing which Git. And if it prints a path like that, that means you do have Git installed. If it doesn't print anything, then you do not have Git installed yet, and you'll want to install it. If you're on Windows, just look for the Git Bash program. If you don't have that, then you'll need to install Git. So on Mac and Linux, I recommend installing it from git-scm.com/download, and you can click on Mac or Linux and click the download button. If you're on Windows, I recommend going to desktop.github.com and clicking the download button. It should say Windows right here. I'm on a Mac, so it knows that and says Mac. But on Windows, it should show you the Windows download button. And this will download a GitHub GUI as well as the Git Bash shell, which is a program that has Git installed. And I recommend using Git Bash because that way you can follow along with the commands that I use in this tutorial. And if you have any trouble installing Git, feel free to leave a comment below, or go ahead and search YouTube for how to install Git, and there should be plenty of good videos out there to help you install Git. And if you still can't get it, feel free to comment below, and I'll provide some more details for how to do that. So once you have Git installed, open up Git Bash if you're on Windows, or open up the terminal if you're on Mac or Linux, and type which Git to make sure that a line similar to that prints. If you're using git bash, you don't need to do that because git bash has git installed for sure, so you don't need to type which git on git bash. Alright, so once you have git installed, you're going to want to navigate to the directory where your website is. So if you open up, I have Finder on my Mac, it'll be Windows Explorer on Windows. You can see I have it in my desktop folder. I have my web page. So in the terminal, I'm going to type cd to go to my home directory and type ls to see the folders in it, and then I can see my desktop folder is here, so I'm going to type cd desktop, and then I can type ls again to see my web page folder, and then type cd b, and then I'll hit tab to do an autocomplete so I don't have to type the whole thing, and hit enter. So now I'm in my web page and I can see my web page files. So once you're here, you can start these commands that GitHub tells you to do. So we'll create a readme. So we'll echo that text to readme, to a readme file. And then it says to type git init. So we'll type git init. And you can see it created an empty git repository. So now we're going to want to set our username and email that will show up as in the git commit. So if you type git config -- global user.name, and you can type your name and then hit enter, and as you can see I mistyped global, so it came up with this huge list of commands that are valid. So if I go ahead and fix that and hit enter again, that'll work. So then I'm going to type git config. I'm going to type clear so I can get back to the top. Alright, and type git config -- global again, and then we'll say user.email, and I'll type my email. Alright, so once you set up your name and email and there, then you can go ahead and follow the next step, which says to add the readme file. So we'll type git status, and you can see we have the readme file and our web page files that we need to add. So instead of typing git add readme, we'll type git add dot, and then hit enter. And if you type git status, you'll see that we added all these. They're ready to be committed now. They show up green now. So if we type git commit -m first commit, that'll add those to the commit. And you can see the next step, they say to add the origin. So make sure you have SSH selected, and then copy this. It's easier than typing it all out, and that will add. That'll tell it, hey, when you push to the repository, this is the URL that you should send the files to. Alright, and then it says git push -u origin master. So we'll go ahead and do that. And this is not going to work. So we can say yes. And it says permission denied, public key. Could not read from remote repository. So what that means is we need to set up a public key before you can push. So I'm going to just type clear right now. Alright, so to set up a public key, if you don't have one, you can go ahead and check if you have a public key installed here, but we're going to go ahead and create a new one anyways. So if you go to your settings, you can go to SSH and GPG keys, You can see I don't have any SSH keys yet, so I'm going to create one. So to do that, still in the terminal, you can go to find this article on GitHub's website. This is the URL for it. You can see it has Mac, Windows, and Linux instructions. So click on the platform that you're on and follow the instructions. It's pretty similar for every platform. So I'm going to go ahead and go through the Mac instructions, but make sure to follow the ones that uh, for your platform. But again, they'll all be pretty similar. Alright, so I'm going to open up this, I have this terminal opened up, and I'm going to generate a key. Alright, and then you can enter a file. So I'm going to go ahead and say, I'm going to change this slightly. Alright, so I'm just going to add the underscore programming liftoff to the end of my key because as you write programs and create software, you'll end up getting multiple SSH keys. So just adding on a little like explanation of what it's used for is helpful. You can add GitHub to the name of the file as well, so you know it's a key for GitHub. But I'm just going to use that. I'm not going to add a passphrase. You can decide if you want a passphrase, but I'm not going to use one. Alright, so we have our SSH key created. Now we need to add it to, so our computer knows that it's been added. Now again, this command might vary slightly. Make sure you go to this page and scroll down and see what it says right here for your platform. For example, for Windows, there's no double quotes around it. So I'll go ahead and hit enter on that. And then I'm not going to do this step. If you do have trouble, you might need to, such as when you restart your computer, if it's not working, you might need to add this to the file at this location. But I'm not going to do that right now. Then I'll do this last line. I'll just copy and paste it in there. And as you can see, I tried to copy and paste it, and of course I'm not using the name that they suggested, so I don't have that file. But I'll change the name and hit enter, and it added that SSH key. So now the SSH key is created on our computer. Now we need to create the SSH key on GitHub. So if you go to this article at this URL, it has some more steps for Mac, Windows, and Linux, and it shows you how to add this SSH key to your GitHub account. So step one is going to be to run this command right here. So I'll copy this. And I'll paste it in here, and this time I'll go right after RSA and add the exact name of the file for my key. And make sure you have the .pub at the end of it. This is copying your public key. Alright, so we'll copy that, and then we'll go to step 2, and let's see. So step 2, it says to go to your settings. Alright, so I already clicked on my settings right here, and then click on the SSH right here. and then we're going to add a new key. Alright, and then call it something so you know where your key is installed at. So since I'm installing my key on my Mac, I'm going to call it Andrew MacBook Pro. And then we ran this command. This copied your public key to your clipboard, so you can hit Command V or Control V or right click and click paste, and that will paste your key right here. And this is your public key, so I wouldn't recommend sharing it with people, but it's not a bad thing if someone sees it. That's why it's called a public key, because it's intended to be put on servers, and other people, it's fine if other people know what your public key is. Just make sure nobody knows what your private key is, and I wouldn't go around showing people either key. There's really no need. So go ahead and add your key. Alright, so it says we've never used the key yet, but we've added it. So now if you go back here, we're going to try to push our website to the repository again. So we'll type git push -u origin master, and this time it was successful. It pushed it to GitHub, and yeah. So let's go take a look. So if you go to your repositories, you can see the repository that we created. Alright, and you can see that the files are here. So now the last thing we'll want to do is go to this settings and scroll down to the GitHub pages section, select the master branch and click save. Alright, and if we scroll down, we'll see that the site is ready to be published at this URL. So I'm going to right click and open that in a new tab, and you can see that the site wasn't found. It can take 5 to 10 minutes, sometimes a little longer, for this site to be published live. So you might have to be a little patient here. But if you just refresh the page in about 5 or 10 minutes, maybe sooner, your web page will be showing up, and it's now live on the internet. So you can share this URL with other people to have them come check out your web page. So that's pretty cool. This is what my web page will look like once it shows up there. So I might just pause the video and wait for this to show up. That way you guys don't have to just sit here looking at this blank screen forever. So let me do that. Alright, so now my site is live on the internet. It was taking a while, so I did end up making another commit to the repository. I just added some text to the readme that just every commit, GitHub will rebuild your website. So that commit that I added was just to help it recognize that there was a website here and that it should be showing up. So if it's taking a while, you might need to just add another commit, just a single line to the readme or something like that, just to have it rebuild your site. So congratulations, now your site is live on the internet. So feel free to post a link to your site in the comments so other people can check it out. And if you have any problems, feel free to post it in the comments below, and I'll try to help you out with those. I'll also be posting some more hints on the tutorial on programmingliftoff.com. So if you head on over to programmingliftoff.com and go to upload a website to GitHub pages, go to this blog post. You can read some instructions on basically the same thing that this video covered. But if you run into any problems, this article will be updated with some more steps to help you resolve those problems and get your site up and running. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned for more tutorials.